Today, if you're able, I'd encourage you to read in Mark chapter 10, beginning at verse 32 through verse 45. This is the third and final prediction of Jesus' passion, that he would be rejected and suffer and be killed and on the third day rise again. And if you look at verse 32, it says they were on the road going up to Jerusalem, and Jesus was walking ahead of them. They were amazed, and those who followed were afraid. There is this ominous sense by the time we get to Mark chapter 10 about what might happen to Jesus. And yet, James and John, right after that third prediction of the Passion in verses 35 to 40, they're presented as coming forward and asking Jesus to do for them whatever they ask, which is to have a position of power and glory. And Jesus tells them it's probably not going to happen. It's not his to give. And in fact, they're going to drink the cup that he drinks, which means the cup of suffering and martyrdom. So that conversation turns out very differently than James and John imagined when they asked Jesus. And then when the 10 hear about it, they get angry with James and John, perhaps because they didn't think to ask Jesus for special positions of glory before the brothers did. But in the aftermath of this, Jesus is trying to straighten out the disciples who still to this point don't grasp what he's all about. And verses 43 to 45 are what we're going to concentrate on briefly. Jesus says, "But it is not so among you, but whoever wishes to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wishes to be first among you must be slave of all. For the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many." I can tell you with almost 100% assurance that there is nobody in our church, if you had asked them when they were a child growing up or a young person in high school or college, what do you want to be when you grow up? None of us would have said, you know what I want to be? I want to be a slave. I want to be at the absolute bottom and devote myself to taking care of everybody else and serving their needs. No. We might have wanted to say we want to be rich, we want to be powerful, we want to be successful, we want to be famous, we want to be happy. But to be a slave of all, come on. That didn't enter any of our consciousness. But yet, that is what Jesus is telling his followers they need to aspire to. Not to positions of power or glory, but to be the one who is willing to serve and to sacrifice and even to suffer and to give up things for the sake of the kingdom, for the sake of Christ, and for others. How willing are you to be a slave to all for Jesus' sake?